Hello and welcome to this video on price elasticity of supply. In this video, we're going to look at what it means, how to calculate it, and then relate it to supply curves. So let's start off with what is meant by price elasticity of supply, or sometimes abbreviated to PES. Well, price elasticity of supply is defined as the responsiveness of quantity supplied to a change in price, i.e. what happens to the amount that producers produce or wish to produce if there is a change in price. Is it very responsive? Do they produce a lot more or not very much more? And which direction does that relationship go in? We can calculate this by using the following formula. The percentage change in quantity supplied divided by the percentage change in price. And this is an important formula, so let's make sure that we've got this one down in our notes. Now, in order to do this, we do need to be able to do percentage change, the change over original times 100, or as I like to remember, cheese and onion. So let's have a look at a practice calculation here. The market price of crisps rises from 70 cents to 77 cents, so an increase of 0.07. As a result, the crisp manufacturer increases production from 1,000 to 1,200. So a change, an increase here of 200. What is the price elasticity of supply? Well, let's go through our steps. First of all, let's work out the percentage change in supply. So the change in supply was an increase of 200 divided by the original 1,000. So supply has gone up by 20%. Now, what happened to the price? Well, the change was 0.07 over the original 70 cents times 100. So that's an increase of 10%. So what's the price elasticity of supply? Well, 20 over 10 is 2. And we call this the price elasticity of supply coefficient. And we would expect here to get a positive number, whereas for PED, we would expect a negative number. Why is that? Because as price rises, we would expect supply or willingness to supply to increase as well. So we're going to get a positive coefficient. So what does that mean? This price elasticity supply coefficient of 2. It means for packets of crisps, if the price changes by a certain percentage, the percentage change in supply will be twice as big. We might again use this triangle to help us work out if we're given the PES and we're given the percentage change in price, we can multiply the two together and then work out what the percentage change in quantity supplied is likely to be. So what might price inelastic supply look like or mean? Well, it means that an increase in price will lead to a smaller percentage change in supply. So the price elasticity of supply coefficient is less than 1. How might that look in terms of our supply curves? Well, we're talking about a kind of vertical supply curve here and an inelastic supply curve where we can see that as price changes, as price goes up, there is not much change in the quantity on this axis supplied. Again, a nice way to remember that is it looks like an eye for inelastic. Perfectly inelastic would be a vertical supply curve. Now, why might supply be inelastic? A number of reasons. If firms are operating close to full capacity, there may be no more scope to increase supply. If there are low levels of stock, they can't increase supply very quickly because they don't have any stocks to sell. In the short term, capital is fixed. Firms do not have the time or maybe the resources to build bigger factories and increase supply. Sometimes it's difficult to employ extra factors of production to increase supply, particularly if highly skilled labour is needed. And with agricultural products in particular, you need to grow them. It takes time to grow these things. So you can't increase supply very quickly in the short term. So these are all reasons why supply might be inelastic and we should take them down. What might price elastic supply look like? This is where a change in price leads to a bigger percentage increase in supply. The price elasticity supply coefficient will be bigger than 1, and our supply curve will be much more horizontal. Here, changes in price, a small change in price, leads to a big change in the quantity supplied. And this looks a little bit like the middle of an E, if you were to think about an E looking like that. So E for elastic. Perfectly elastic supply curve will be horizontal. Why might supply be elastic? Well, there's lots of spare capacity, then a firm or a producer can quickly increase the scale of production if the price rises. Again, if there are stocks available, they could do the same. In the long run, supply tends to be more elastic because we can build more factories, hire more workers. And so we can increase the levels of factory production, and if it's easy to do so, we can supply more if the price was to rise. So here's a good moral of the story. I'd like you to pause the video, read the moral of the story, and it's a good summary of the issues between short-term and long-term price elasticity of supply. So in this video, we've looked at what is meant by price elasticity of supply, how you calculate it, and then related it to supply curves. That's it. Thanks for listening.